Welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be taking a close look at Living in the Light by Shakti Gawain. Have you had a chance to read it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic in the personal growth world, a real guide to transformation on both a personal and planetary level.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how she weaves her own personal experiences into these really profound insights.
Right. It's like she's saying, hey, I've been there, I've walked this path, and here's what I've learned. That makes it so much more relatable.
Absolutely. So in our deep dive, we're going to be focusing on her perspective, on connecting with your inner power, intuition, and even the creative force of the universe.
Yeah.
Things like how the world acts as a mirror, reflecting our inner selves, and how trusting your intuition can lead to a more fulfilling life.
Oh, and we can't forget about the interplay of masculine and feminine energies. And that's not just about traditional gender roles, but recognizing these forces within each of us and finding a balance.
Exactly. Our goal is to help you extract those valuable insights from living in the light and apply them in your own life.
Yeah.
To understand where she's coming from, I think it helps to start with her personal journey, which she kind of weaves throughout the book.
Yeah, her upbringing was interesting, actually. Surprisingly non-spiritual.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she grew up in a really intellectual atheist family. Logic and scientific proof were highly valued.
Wow, so spirituality was.
Almost like a fantasy.
Yeah. It's fascinating how that kind of skepticism actually led her on this whole journey of exploration. She was drawn to Eastern philosophies, practices like yoga and meditation. She even traveled to India, immersing herself in those mystical traditions.
It's true. And those travels to India really did deepen her understanding of the mystical tradition. She connected with the energy of the universe, particularly the energy that deities like Shiva and Shakti symbolize.
And I love that story about her mother's experience with the Silva mind control course, where her mom visualized desired outcomes and actually had success with it.
Yeah.
It's like it sparked Gawain's interest in the concept of magic and creative visualization.
That's a great way to put it. It planted the seed for her exploration of how we can shape our reality through consciousness. And that led her to write Creative Visualization, which became a huge success, mostly through word of mouth.
It's amazing how that happens. But, even with that success, she still faced her own challenges. Workaholism, relationship struggles. She even delved into things like voice dialogue to explore the different selves within.
It's admirable how open she is about those struggles in Living in the Light. Shows us that personal growth is an ongoing journey. And sometimes those challenges are what push us to seek deeper healing and understanding.
And it's inspiring that after years of inner work, she found a fulfilling partnership. It shows, self-discovery can happen at any stage of life.
It really is. And speaking of evolution, Gawain emphasizes a big shift in her book. It's about moving from a focus on external things to cultivating inner awareness and connecting to, what some people call a higher power. But it's more about recognizing that this power is within each of us.
Okay. But what about this concept of channeling? I think that's where some people get a little lost. How do we actually do that?
Right, it does sound a bit mystical, doesn't it? But she explains it really well, using the analogy of a pipe organ.
Okay, a pipe organ.
Yeah. First, the pipe organ has to be open, unobstructed, so energy can flow freely. That means clearing out mental clutter, negative thoughts, limiting beliefs.
I see. So it's like creating space for that energy to flow through.
Exactly. And then the pipe organ needs structure. It needs a defined form so that energy can be directed effectively. Think of it as having a strong personality, a strong sense of self built on, self-awareness and intuition. And then the power source, the universe's creative force. It can flow through you and manifest in your life.
So being open and having that solid structure are important. But how does intuition play into all of this?
She has this great story about her editor, Becky. She took a big risk, guided by her intuition, and landed her dream job in publishing. Even though there was fear and uncertainty, she listened to her gut and made a bold move.
And it paid off.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how aligning your actions with your intuition can lead to amazing things.
Right. It's about tapping into that inner knowing and letting it guide your decisions. Now, another concept that's woven throughout the book is the idea of the world as a mirror.
I find that so fascinating, but also kind of challenging. How do we actually apply that to our everyday lives?
Gawain lays out two key premises. First, everything in our life is a reflection of our inner selves, our beliefs, attitudes, and emotional patterns. And second, no reflection is negative. Everything is a gift for self-awareness.
So if you have a boss who's constantly criticizing your work,
Yeah.
does that mean you're a bad employee? Or is there something deeper going on?
Exactly. Instead of blaming the boss or feeling like a victim, ask yourself, what is this situation reflecting back to me? Is it triggering feelings of inadequacy, fear of failure, something I need to address within myself? It's about understanding the message behind the reflection.
So even those frustrating situations can be opportunities for growth.
Absolutely. And it applies to the good stuff too. Those moments of joy, fulfilling relationships, they also reflect our inner beauty and strength.
It's a powerful shift in perspective. Instead of seeing the world as happening to us, we see it as a reflection of who we are.
Leading to greater self-awareness and empowerment. Now, of course, sometimes we resist seeing certain reflections, especially those that challenge our self-image. But Gawain encourages approaching those reflections with compassion, recognizing we're all works in progress.
This is all starting to make sense. But before I move on, could we maybe dig a little deeper into one specific example of how this plays out, like in a real-life situation?
Sure. Let's say you consistently find yourself attracting partners who are emotionally unavailable.
Oh, a classic.
Instead of getting frustrated or blaming them, ask yourself, what's this pattern reflecting back to me? Do I have a fear of intimacy? A belief that I'm not worthy of love?
Right, so it's not about blaming our partners, but recognizing that they're mirroring back to us something within ourselves.
Exactly. And by addressing those inner patterns, you might find that the external situation shifts as well. Change starts within.
It's so insightful. Another concept that always intrigued me is her take on masculine and feminine energies.
Oh, that's a fascinating exploration, and it goes way beyond just traditional gender roles. Gawain suggests that men and women have both masculine and feminine energies within them.
So it's not about conforming to society's expectations of what it means to be masculine or feminine.
Exactly. The male energy is that active, assertive force that interacts with the world. And the female energy is more intuitive, receptive, that power within.
Can you give some examples of how these energies manifest in our personalities and behaviors?
Think of the macho man stereotype, overly aggressive, dominant, out of touch with his emotions. That can be an example of imbalanced masculine energy.
Okay, that makes sense. What about an imbalance on the feminine side?
Maybe someone who's overly passive, people-pleasing, constantly seeking validation from others. That could stem from an overemphasis on the receptive feminine energy without a healthy balance of the assertive masculine energy.
So it's like we all have this dance between these two forces within us, and the goal is to find that balance.
Exactly. And Gawain envisions a world where both men and women embrace their full range of masculine and feminine qualities, leading to more fulfilling lives and relationships.
That's beautiful. And it challenges us to move beyond those rigid gender stereotypes and embrace, the fullness of who we are.
Absolutely. And she refers to this as the new male and the new female, this vision of balanced energy where both forces work in harmony. It's about integrating those different aspects of ourselves and expressing them authentically.
Okay, so we've talked about Gawain's personal journey, the concept of channeling, the world as a mirror, and the interplay of masculine and feminine energies. It's amazing how these ideas are all interconnected.
Right, they all build upon each other. And as we continue our deep dive, we'll see how these concepts are woven throughout living in the light.
Mhm.
They ultimately lead to that personal and planetary transformation.
And how we can practically apply them to our own lives. But for now, let's take a closer look at how this world as a mirror concept specifically plays out in our relationships.
It's fascinating how Gawain suggests that our relationships, they're like mirrors, reflecting not just our individual selves, but also like our internal relationship with ourselves.
Oh,
Or-
okay. I'm curious about that. How do our relationships reflect our relationship with ourselves?
Okay, imagine this. You're constantly seeking validation and approval from your partner.
Hmm.
That might be a sign that you're not giving yourself enough validation and approval.
Like we're projecting our own insecurities and needs onto them, hoping they'll fill those voids.
Exactly. Gawain encourages us to break free from that old model of seeking fulfillment externally. Instead, she says, focus on building a strong, loving relationship with yourself and the universe first.
So cultivate self-love and self-acceptance. And then that creates a foundation for healthier relationships.
Exactly. When you feel whole and complete within yourself, you're not relying on someone else to complete you.
Right.
You attract partners who complement you, support your growth, and inspire you to be your best self.
That makes so much sense. It's not about finding someone to fix us or make us happy, but rather someone who can walk beside us on that journey of self-discovery.
Speaking of self-discovery, Gawain's views on relationships kind of challenge those conventional norms. She even delves into her own experiences with non-monogamous relationships.
This is where it gets really interesting. How did that exploration of non-monogamy inform her overall perspective on relationships?
Well, through that exploration, she realized that even though initially she thought she was seeking unconditional love and freedom, it didn't really align with her emotional needs for intimacy and commitment.
Hmm.
So it was a valuable lesson in recognizing the importance of aligning your relationship choices with, your authentic needs and desires.
Regardless of societal expectations.
Right. And that leads us to another area where Gawain challenges conventional thinking, her perspective on the roles of parents and children.
I'm excited to hear about this. What makes Gawain's approach to parenting so unique?
Well, she flips the script. Instead of viewing children as like blank slates we need to mold and shape,
Right.
she sees them as wise souls who chose their parents to learn specific lessons in this lifetime.
Almost like saying that children are our teachers, not just our pupils.
Exactly. Gawain really emphasizes the importance of recognizing their inherent wisdom and treating them with respect, not seeing them as helpless or, needing to be controlled.
Yeah. It challenges that traditional power dynamic, encourages a more collaborative approach to parenting.
Exactly. And she suggests that parents, really focus on modeling healthy behavior, expressing their feelings honestly, because, children learn more from actions than words.
It's about walking the talk, being an authentic example of the principles you want to instill.
She tells this really compelling story about a couple who embraced this philosophy. They
Sure.
raised their daughter with this awareness, honoring her as this wise soul. And she just blossomed into this remarkable individual, deeply connected to her intuition.
It's so inspiring. It really reinforces the idea that when we create that space of respect and trust, children can truly thrive.
Now, speaking of unique gifts and thriving, Gawain doesn't just stop with, personal growth and relationships. She also challenges us to reevaluate how we think about work.
Okay, because work is definitely an area where I think a lot of people struggle to find meaning and purpose. What is Gawain's take on finding fulfillment in our work lives?
She challenges that whole view of work as a chore. Instead, she presents it as this joyful expression of our unique channel to the universe.
So it's not about settling for a job we dislike just to pay the bills,
Right.
but finding something that aligns with our passions.
Exactly. And she emphasizes finding joy in the present moment, not just sacrificing ourselves now for, some future payoff, like retirement.
Right. It's about creating a life that feels aligned and purposeful right now.
Right now, exactly.
But it isn't always easy to find that ideal work.
Many people feel stuck,
Right, yeah,
They don't
right.
love their jobs. They're facing those societal pressures, those financial constraints. What kind of practical advice does Gawain offer for finding work that aligns with those passions?
She suggests starting by exploring your passions,
Okay.
even if they seem kind of frivolous or unrealistic at first. Like, what truly brings you joy? What are you drawn to, even if you're not getting paid for it?
So identifying those activities that light you up, even if they don't fit into like a traditional career path. Exactly. And trust your intuition. Take those small steps towards those passions. Maybe that's starting a side hustle, volunteering your time, taking a class.
So it's not about making some drastic overnight career change. It's about taking those baby steps, experimenting, allowing your work to evolve as you evolve.
Exactly. And she emphasizes that even those, maybe seemingly mundane tasks, they can be infused with joy and purpose when we approach them with the right mindset.
Right.
It's about finding that fulfillment in the present moment.
This makes me think about, like, even simple tasks, cleaning or cooking. Like, they can feel meaningful when you focus on the intention and care you bring to them.
Exactly. It's about shifting that perspective and recognizing that our work, it doesn't have to be separate from our spiritual journey. It can be an integral part of it.
That's a great point. And speaking of things that can sometimes feel separate from our spiritual journey, let's talk about money.
Oh, money.
It's such a loaded topic, associated with stress, scarcity, competition. How does Gawain reconcile money with this idea of living in the light?
She challenges those old beliefs. She explains that money, like everything else, it's a reflection of that energy flowing through our channel.
Okay.
It's not about hoarding wealth or, chasing after every dollar. It's about aligning with our intuition and purpose, trusting that abundance will flow when we're in alignment with our true selves.
So shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Exactly. And Gawain shares her own experiences, with financial ups and downs, emphasizing that unwavering trust in the universe to provide for her needs, even when things seemed bleak.
It's a message of faith and surrender. Not always easy to embrace in a world that often tells us to strive and struggle for financial security.
It's true.
What are some things that people can do to cultivate a healthier relationship with money? Like, how can we shift to that abundance mindset?
She suggests starting by examining our beliefs about money.
Yeah.
Where did those beliefs come from? Do they actually serve us? She also encourages honesty about our spending habits. Where are we leaking energy? Are we overspending in some areas or maybe under-earning in others?
It's about becoming aware of those patterns and making conscious choices.
Exactly. And she highlights the importance of giving back. Sharing your abundance is a way to keep that energy flowing.
Create a ripple effect of generosity.
Right. It's a reminder that money is a tool, not an end goal. And when we use it in alignment with our values, it can support our growth and the greater good.
I love that. And it's interesting. She tells that story, right, about a couple who visualized their ideal property in Hawaii,
Yes.
and they ended up buying a piece of land that she had previously owned.
It's amazing.
It highlights the interconnectedness of energy and, how following your intuition can lead to unexpected outcomes.
It's a beautiful example of how aligning with our purpose can manifest in sometimes surprising ways.
It reminds us that we're all connected. Our energy does have an impact on the world around us.
Absolutely. And that interconnectedness is really key to understanding her approach to health and well-being.
This concept of interconnectedness is fascinating. How does Gawain tie that into our health and well-being?
Well, she sees this really profound connection between, our physical well-being and our spiritual and emotional state. It's not that she dismisses things like diet and exercise,
Right.
but true health. It goes way beyond just the physical.
So she's saying that our emotional and spiritual state can actually manifest in our physical bodies.
Exactly. The body is like a wise messenger. Physical symptoms can be signs that, something's out of balance at a deeper level.
Okay, so if someone's experiencing like chronic pain or illness, that could be a sign they're ignoring their intuition, suppressing emotions, or neglecting self-care.
Exactly. Trust those whispers from your body, those aches, those pains. They're trying to tell you something.
Instead of masking the symptoms, we should be looking for the root cause.
Right. It's about listening to what your body is trying to communicate.
And how do we start doing that?
She emphasizes things like self-assertion, setting boundaries, expressing your emotions authentically. These are all ways to support your physical health.
And that ties back to what we were talking about earlier. Owning our power, honoring our authentic self.
It's all connected. She shares this great story about a client who struggled with weight issues for years.
Oh, I'm curious about this. How did this client find healing?
Through therapy, she learned to express her suppressed emotions, to set boundaries. And as she started honoring her needs and speaking her truth, she naturally started losing weight. She felt more vibrant.
That's powerful. It shows that addressing those emotional and spiritual needs can have a huge impact on our physical health.
It really does. And ultimately, Gawain's message is about hope and empowerment. She believes that as we heal and transform ourselves, we contribute to the healing and transformation of the world.
So it's not just about focusing on our own individual growth, but recognizing that we're all connected. Our individual choices have that ripple effect.
Right, like that 100th monkey effect. One monkey discovers a new behavior. Eventually, it spreads to the whole group.
It's amazing how that happens.
So it illustrates how individual shifts in consciousness can create a tipping point.
So instead of feeling powerless or waiting for someone else to fix the world's problems, we can make conscious choices.
Exactly. Gawain reminds us that we each have a role to play. Our personal growth, it's an act of service to the world.
And that brings us back to the heart of living in the light. It's not just a self-help book. It's a guide to personal and planetary transformation.
She even envisions a future where media, especially television, becomes this powerful tool for spreading conscious and transformative ideas.
I love that. Imagine if we were bombarded with messages of hope and empowerment and interconnectedness instead of, all the negativity and fear.
It's about harnessing the power of technology to connect with people on a deeper level, inspiring them to live those fulfilling, purposeful lives.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into living in the light, what are some of the key takeaways you hope listeners will, take with them?
I hope they remember that personal growth, it's a journey, not a destination. It's about constantly striving to be more aware, more compassionate, and more aligned with their true purpose.
And to trust their intuition. They have the power within to create the life they desire and contribute to a more beautiful world.
Exactly. Like Gawain says, let your light shine brightly.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. May your life be filled with abundance, joy, and purpose.